This is Elvis Online, and I'm Joe Crine, and I got Richard Elliott. You know, call you Richard, or you want to be called Dick?
Well, my friends call me Richard. My work name is Dick.
Yeah.
that's that's how they'll find me online, Dick Elliott.
Okay. Hey, Richard, where were you born and raised?
I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I lived there until 1959 when I got drafted into the Army and got out in 62. Came back to Milwaukee for about 18 months and playing in jazz clubs and teaching. And a friend of mine said, let's go to Vegas, which we did. And I guess it was the right time. In fact, it was the day that our dear president was assassinated. It was 1960. Oh my gosh, I can't even think back that far. 1963.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it was tough. November. We were getting ready to packing for the trip. So I spent 33 years in Las Vegas, and then after they breached our contract at the Riviera, where I was on staff for 26 years, there were only two bands left. The Stardust Band playing the Lido de Paris and the Riviera Hotel, of course. All the other hotels had gone to tape. And it was about the beginning of the end for the working musicians in Las Vegas, because nothing has changed since then. A few shows, or these water shows, the French shows, the acrobats and all that, Circus Olay and O and so on. They're synthesizers or sympathizers, I call them. And maybe a rhythm section and maybe a few instruments, and then you hear the strings, but there's no string section. You hear the brass, there's no brass section. So hopefully things will get better. Our union is still intact in Las Vegas. Local 369. Mm-hmm. I still reside there, and I live here in Milwaukee. I came back in Milwaukee in 1996 to be a caregiver for my mother. And I stayed on as I was busy doing work here with jazz groups, working with the symphony as an added musician and Broadway shows. And I'm still playing at my age. So I've been blessed, and I always thank the dear Lord for my career. And what questions may you have, Joe?
Did you always want to be a guitar player? You always wanted to be in music?
I was in love with the sound of the instrument ever since I was a boy. My father was a musician, and we had the Django Reinhardt records playing all the time. And when I heard the guitar, it was just beautiful. And of course, back in the late 50s, I remember reading somewhere where a record session in Detroit was happening, and the guitar player blew the speaker on the amplifier, and they didn't have time to change amps. And that was the beginning of the fuzz tone, or the dirty sounding guitars, the chainsaw things, and that we hear today, and all the applications that go with it. So it's all part of it. But I was drawn to the instrument by the beautiful sound and timbre of it, and I still am.
Now, when did you start working? You started working at the International Hotel, didn't you?
Well, I got there in 1963, and I had to wait 6 months for my union card. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I was teaching, and I got a job playing in a country place called Nashville, Nevada, and people like Ray Price and let's see. I can't remember all the stars that came through there with their bands from Nashville. It was called the Nashville, Nevada. And we did a radio show and 3 nights a week, and it was pretty good money. I was there 3 months, and I got permission to work, as I had a call to work on the strip at the Riviera, and that was my first job in 63. And I went to all the hotels. At that time, I was at Caesar's Palace for 2.5 years when it opened, and in 1965. Then I went to the International, as you said, and originally it was Bobby Morris that had the band.
Right. And
then Joe Guercio took over the band, and he let everybody go except myself and Archie Lecoq, who was the trombone player. So we stayed on with Joe, and I was there for a couple of years, and then I left and was freelancing back and forth between different hotels, and then I got the call from the Riviera, Dick Palumbi, my dear friend, who conducted for Buddy Greco, just about everybody, the Carpenters, Shody McLean. And I had known Dick for a number of years prior to going to Las Vegas, so I I worked for him for 26 years at the Riviera, and with the liberty to travel with different stars and just send in a sub. So it was a wonderful job.
Yeah.
And
Now, were you an Elvis fan?
well, of course, everybody was. He had something that nobody else had. He had the, I don't know if it was the Native American blood in him or whatever it was, but he had the power to just hypnotize an audience practically with his music, with the rhythms, with the pace of his show and his performance. I really can't even describe it. I guess when you see some of those live performances, you'll know what I mean. And he had that wonderful rhythm section with Ronnie Tutt and Jerry Sheff on bass, and wonderful rhythms, Gary Burton, who was just one of the best guitar players I've ever heard for that bag.
Now, a lot of people consider you the fourth guitar player, right? I mean, you refer to yourself as being the fourth guitar player.
And that come about because Elvis brought his rhythm guitar player, John Wilkes, who just passed away recently, and the lead guitar player and the rhythm section. And I was in the house orchestra, and so I was just trying to do what everybody else wasn't doing, rhythm, whatever rhythm patterns I could play and so on without getting in the way.
Right. Now, did Elvis ever point you out as
No,
playing guitar? Or?
no, but he was aware of us, and he always was very appreciative. He'd always nod when he came on, and we ran into him in the hall, But he was a dear man. He was a dear man. He was the true Southern gentleman, to everybody, even the girls that ran across the stage to get their kisses. He was always very honest, never disrespected anybody.
Do you remember that very first show that he did? I mean, you were there for the very first one after all these years of him not playing live.
It was incredible. It was incredible. It was beyond anything I can explain to anybody. Of course, with Ronnie, would set that wonderful rhythm with his drums and the rhythm section, and he would get into these songs like nobody else. I mean, Tom Jones came through and different artists, and Elvis was the king, and he still is. I don't think anybody will ever come up to his standard.
Yeah. Now, do you remember the first time that you met Elvis? I mean, did you meet Elvis personally?
At the rehearsal, we had a 33 piece orchestra,
right,
strings and everything. So he couldn't, acknowledge everybody just as a group as he did. But I met him on different occasions and shook his hand, and he was always congenial and always good to everybody. Always a lot of gifts, and it was always something there waiting for us.
A lot of gifts, you said. What kind? Like records and stuff like that? Or
albums, and I can't even, it was always something that he would leave after the engagement. He'd come in for a couple weeks at a time, and over a 2.5-year period. I remember giving us wonderful photographs and also this collector's, all his records in a collector's package,
Yeah. I know the one you're talking about.
Which I gave away to a friend of mine. He was an Elvis friend. I think I gave away most of the things because you can't keep everything, and I think people that are really taken by Elvis, with their life, the favorite artist of their life, I should say. And I came across friends like that in my lifetime, and I was able to give the things away, which I thought would be a better place for them.
Was there any special setup for the Elvis show?
Yes, there was. The orchestra, of course, being in the background. And as you see some of the old film clips, and some of them had been blacked out, or with a black scrim, which wasn't there, of course, because if they see us on camera, they have to pay us. So over the years, we got residuals, of course, for the recordings and all the things that were filmed. And then as I saw these things over the years, they were slowly erasing us from the background. So his group was in front of us. Ronnie was in the middle, Ronnie Tutt and Jerry, of course, and the two other guitars, John and his lead guitar player, Burton. And then to his stage left was his best buddy. You'll see him. And he always played the same. His name was Charlie Hodge. And he played the same guitar that Elvis did, always doubled what he was doing. And in case Elvis didn't make the rehearsals, Charlie could get up and sing just like Elvis. And he'd go on the mic and we'd run through all the tunes, and you'd swear it was Elvis. And that was Charlie Hodge. He was his best buddy, and I guess from the Army. And he had a lot of his fellows that traveled with him that were his bodyguards. They were all Army friends of his over the years. He was good to everybody, and he kept his friends. You know, he didn't forget anybody.
Was there a lot of rehearsing? Did you do a lot of rehearsing for the shows, or?
At first, no. When Bobby had the band, there was just a lot of downbeats and chords at the end of the performance, at the end of the numbers. And then when Joe took over, Joe was a wonderful organizer. He got a fellow named Don Hanna, who was an arranger in Las Vegas for a lot of major stars and the shows that were going on. And he had him do the arrangements. Joe would score everything, and then the band would be behind. In fact, the opening, that thing from, what is it? You know, and you hear the drums bang, boom, 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 boom. You know,
2001.
Yes, and he scored that, and a lot of the other tunes where all the orchestra was an intricate part of his arrangements. Prior to that, it was usually just chords at the end, you know, and we're playing along with him, and then a big chord, and everybody would hold the chord. But Joe put it together, and I guess as you see those wonderful films in Hawaii, and of course the ones from the International, you'll see that, and you'll hear the performances that I'm talking about, and the wonderful background arrangements that were arranged by Don Hanna.
Mm-hmm. How many shows did you do a night with the Elvis show?
2 shows a night.
Did that get a little grueling after a while?
No, because every night it was different. I mean, the place was packed. The International Hotel, it was the largest showroom at that time, 1,000 people, 500 downstairs and 500 upstairs. Few people filled that room like he did. Barbra Streisand did. Liberace came in, I believe, and I think Gene Kelly filled it, and of course Tom Jones. There were other stars that came through. Then, you know, maybe they'd fill the bottom, but he filled the whole showroom. The downstairs and the upstairs, and it was incredible.
Now, were you there for the very first show at the International, Barbra Streisand?
No, there was a guitar player named Tom Marth. It was a funny story. I had a call from the contractor at the time. He says, we're forming a new band, and and all these stars are coming into the International. And at the time I was at the Desert Inn, I had signed a contract with that hotel for their show. I forgot, I think it was Pizzazz. It was a variety show. And the same producer produced the Lido di Paris across the street at the Stardust. And I was playing there, and they had some West Montgomery things to play, the octave things. And so he talked to the contractor at the Desert Inn and asked if they could get me. So I, of course, signed the contract, and I went to that hotel. And in the interim, I got the call from Bobby's contractor at the International asking me if I could make that job. And I said, gee, I just signed this contract. So, but you can get Tom Marth. He's excellent. So Tom got the first show. Uh-huh. And then there were some problems at the Desert Inn I wasn't comfortable with. And I called the contractor back. I said, is it too late for me to take the job? He said, no, not at all. I said, I just don't want to hurt Tom. What will you do with Tom? He says, well, Hair is coming into another showroom in International, and we'll put Tom in there. And of course, Tom had a long run on that show, and I was able to step in with Bobby's show and do the Elvis show, and for the next 2.5 years, all the times that he came in, it was like 3 or 4 times a year. Mm-hmm. So,
was there anything? Can you remember a funny story that you can tell us that you always remembered about the Elvis show?
Yes. There was a Halloween night, and Charlie Hodge got a gorilla head from, I don't know where he got it from, costume shop, but it looked like a real gorilla. Put it on his head, and Elvis came out, of course, and he was always standing to the right of, as you're looking at the stage left of Elvis, and Elvis came on stage and never acknowledged that he had this gorilla head on. And we were all cracking up, and it was, and of course, by the middle of the show, he had to take it off, and Elvis never even acknowledged that he had that head on.
Any other
But
stories that you can think of?
oh yes, there were quite a few of them. There was one in particular. At one time, somebody was trying to serve L with a paternity suit,
Oh
and
boy.
a black cape on, and he had a couple of pro-handle guns under his capes on each side, shoulder holsters. And he had this long flashlight that if he held it to somebody, it was a metal detector, and he could tell. And they would walk him, of course, back through the back hallways to get to on stage. He got on stage, and of course, there were two huge speakers the size of refrigerators on each end of the stage. And he had his bodyguards behind there for some reason. We didn't know why. We saw them, crouched down. And sure enough, during the show, one of these gals come up, and while he was singing or talking, they'd come up on stage across for a kiss. Well, this girl came running across the stage, and these two guys, one hit her high and one guy hit her low, and she went down like a ton of bricks. And I thought they hurt her, but she got up, and he explained to everybody. He said, "I'm sorry about this." He says, "Somebody knows that somebody's trying to serve me with a paternity suit, but," he said, "my wife, she knows that I didn't do anything."
Yeah,
And
that turned out to be bogus anyway, so it was proven to be bogus.
that's true. That's true. But it was a night. I mean, it was. Can you imagine the show running along, and all of a sudden, girl running across the stage, and these two fellas tackled her, and it was killer, And of course, he makes that statement on the stage. He says, "Priscilla knows that I didn't knock that girl up." Oh my goodness, yeah, that was something. But he was fun to play with. He was always happy and jovial and smiling, and always appreciated all the things we did. And as I look back over the years and I see those film clips and the recordings, I was very proud to be part of it. And of course, the legend of Elvis. And I don't think there'll be another.
Is there one show that sticks out in your mind that you liked the most?
Yes, I think it was the night that they recorded "This Is the Way It Is." Have you seen that film? That film
Yeah,
clip?
that's the way it. Yeah.
And then you see the orchestra. I'm right behind Jerry Schiff in the orchestra. You can see me. And then as the years went by and they keep showing that, as I said, they blacked us out because every time they showed that, we'd have to get residuals.
Right.
And how many years ago is that? 1960, 1970, 1971, 72. That's a lot of years. But that was an incredible night because they had the director out in the audience, and wherever, if Elvis left the stage, and few artists broke that wall, from the stage to the audience. He would go out into the audience, and he would have his microphone wireless, of course, and he'd be up on top of the booths, and the cameraman, the director, wherever he put the crop, that's where the camera would be. If he pointed it down where the bass drum was, the cameraman was on the floor getting a shot from there. If he was out in the audience and he happened to put it on a booth, that baton of his, the cameraman would be there. But everybody was just, you could feel the energy in the air. I've never felt anything like it. Saw him hypnotize audiences with the rhythmical things and his gyrations that he would do at the end of the song or beginning of tunes, and which you see on the film clips, which nobody else could do.
Is there one favorite song that you like the most of Elvis's?
Yeah, I was partial to "Down in the Ghetto" because it told the story. It told the story of what was really happening in the ghettos, not only in all our troubled cities, and our brothers and sisters that are caught in that environment. And I'm trying to remember the composer, Mac Davis.
Mac Davis, yeah, in the ghetto, yeah.
Mac was a dear man, and he came in a few times as well, once as his opening act. And we got to know each other well, and he'd always say, "Come up to the dressing room after, let's pick a little bit." He was always ready to play, but he was a wonderful person. And all the people that he had with him, the sweet inspirations, Whitney's dear mothers, and all the fellas in the choral group, oh my goodness, the Jordanaires, and it was always a treat when they came in.
Yeah, the stamps and that, and yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, when did you stop playing? You played for Elvis to what year?
From 1970 to 1972, let's see, June of 72.
Now, who came in for your spot?
A man named Don Overberg.
Okay.
And Don was one of the premier players when I got there, wonderful jazz artist, and he's gone now too. And yeah, times changed. I mean, that was like it went by so quickly. At the time, you didn't realize it, you know. And you look back over the years and say, "Wow, I was really part of that." And I'm privileged to have been there, and I'm privileged to be with you today, Joe, and all your wonderful listeners and people that were alive to know at that time Elvis, and for the young people that have never seen him in person.
Mm-hmm. Now, you never went on tour with him, did you?
No, I did not.
Were
No,
you
I
ever
was
asked, or?
no, because he traveled with his own group. There was a time when he took the whole band to Hawaii, and that was just prior to me leaving, or after I left.
Did you go?
No, I didn't. No,
Oh, you didn't go. Okay.
no, but
I
I
want to
did.
talk. I'm sorry.
I did a lot of traveling as well with Sammy Davis and Shirley MacLaine, the original Fifth Dimension, who I was part of, and of course Jerry Schiff was the wonderful bassist at that time with the Fifth Dimension. But I was tied with a family in Las Vegas and working and making a wonderful living, and it was a wonderful time. I don't think we'll ever see that again. Every hotel had huge, 18-piece band or a string complement of 33, 34 people.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me how you had heard that Elvis had passed away and how you felt?
Well, that's a personal question that I was very, 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 very hurt when I heard it, but I would not like to discuss that at this time. I have some maybe off camera I can tell you some thoughts, but
okay.
Yes, I was shocked, and I can't even go there.
What do you think about the everlasting popularity of Elvis Presley?
I think it'll be forever because, as I said, I've seen Elvis impersonators over the years. I saw this young fella in England, and he's the closest I've seen. It looked like he might have been part of his family. I don't know. He looks so much like Elvis. But I don't think anybody will replace him, ever.
Mm-hmm. Now, after Elvis, what other big stars did you play with?
Well, I've played for just about everybody that you can name that went to Vegas through a 33-year period. You name somebody, and I'll let you.
Yeah, well, you probably the Osmonds. You probably played
Oh,
for.
yes, and Donnie was one of my guitar students.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah, when he was 9 years old. Yes. Oh my goodness, yes. The Osmonds and the Smothers Brothers, of course, and all the big stars, Perry Como and Andy Williams. I think I mentioned that. Shirley MacLaine, Neil Sedaka.
You've had a great career.
Yes, I have. And I'm still playing. People can go to my website, dickelliott.com, and see all the pictures and the photographs and the recordings and so on.
Is there anything else that you would like to say to the listeners?
Yes. People ask me about my profession and what was the most important thing that happened and so on. And I truly believe that my profession as a musician, at this time, even at this time in my life, that I can lift up people with my music at a terrible time in history when we don't want to look at the news or turn the TV on. And if we can take them away for a few hours and give them that musical pleasure, and joy, music soothes the soul. And I'm sure Elvis did all that. And as I said, nobody will ever replace them. Treasure his memory and his music. That's the main thing I can say today. And I'm going to leave you with a tune I play every day. That was recorded by Amy Grant, El Shaddai. And I play this every night. Very first thing I play every night on my performances. El Shaddai, Adonai. It's still the same today as it was centuries ago.